Hello, thank you so much for joining us today. We have a great webinar planned for you, focused all about meeting your ticketing and asset management needs. And we've got a lot to cover, so before we get into it, just a couple of housekeeping items. I'm going to try to keep my piece short here so we can just get to the good stuff. So first of all, this is going to be high level today. Of course, there's a lot more that we can get into. I would definitely recommend a one-on-one if you'd like to get into, more of the details as it pertains to your specific organization. But hopefully you can get a little bit of a flavor for how this works today. Also, feel free to ask questions. We have the question box enabled here on the right side of your screen. So go ahead and punch those questions in as they come to you. We'll be happy to get those answered. And lastly, this will be recorded. So no need to take notes. You can, you'll be able to see this on our website as well as our YouTube channel. And if you've registered ahead of time, we'll also be sending you a link via email. So you'll have full access to the recording afterwards. That's always a popular question. All right, so without taking too much more time, I'd like to go ahead and introduce you to our solutions architect, Ryan Stefani. He has a lot of interesting things to show you today. And without any further ado, I'll go ahead and hand it off to you. Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Krista. All right, let me share my screen here. Oh, okay, change presenters. All right. Let's see. Let's go clean. Here, I need to see my icons. Okay, there we go. All right, so right, like Krista said, we're going to talk help desk assets. We're going to cover a few other things that we offer as well, just as nice to haves or nice to know that we have, probably is a better way to say it, specifically like service requests and maybe some change management stuff. This is going to be a little bit of a speed run. I mean, I'm guilty of talking too much at length for the technical things, so I'm going to keep it high level. But if, like Krista said, if you are interested, just give me a shout. I know some of you in the attendees list know me. Feel free to just ping me directly. I'm happy to schedule a one-on-one call. But let's kind of start with, well, the architecture first. So this is a SharePoint-based tool, right? Like if you look at my demo site, it's Crow-Canyon SharePoint demo service desk, right? So this will live in your SharePoint tenancy. It will, your logged in users, your logged in 365 users will access it through their 365 account, right? Technicians will have permissions to the backend SharePoint site, and users will have permissions to the portal, so on. It is just an extension of that SharePoint space, and it does leak into things like Teams, which we'll cover, and Outlook, which I don't have open and I should. Now, most people use Power Automate, Power Apps, MS Forms. We do not. We use this tool set called NITRO Studio. This is proprietary to Crow-Canyon. So this is something that we develop, design internally in-house. And there's a few reasons. I mean, a few of the big ones are really the way the Power Apps are developed. It's specific to the user. It's not specific to, in this case, the list or the form, or the list or the site. So it gives us a little bit more control over who has access, how they have access, where they have access. It's a nice way to get away from that reliance upon one person, one developer in the SharePoint space, and it also is a whole heck of a lot easier for us to support, not having to rely on the big beast of Microsoft, right? Okay, so one last thing here on NITRO before I continue. This is included: assets, help desk, service request, whatever, right? This comes with it. So, I mean, it's not like you're gonna wake up tomorrow and be a NITRO expert, but you do have the ability to gain the NITRO knowledge to go in and make the changes on your own. So I get that question a lot, kind of jumping ahead, but okay, what if I move forward? What does the implementation look like? More often than not, Crow-Canyon does the initial implementation, but then the goal is to train you guys, train the customer to be able to take it from there, right? It's a little column A, a little column B sometimes at first, but more often than not, we see people kind of take ownership of it down the road. Okay, so the workflow, the help desk workflow. From the end user's perspective, email submission, going back to NITRO real quick, they can send an email to a shared inbox. that email can create a ticket. Whether it's who sent it, what they said, attachments, right? Original email, a ticket gets created. So if you have folks that submit emails still, this is always going to be an option in any help desk. It's definitely one of ours. The next step for them is the portal. So we have a couple different portal interfaces, depending on how you want the project to flow, what you're looking for, I guess is the best way to say it. What are your requirements? This is more of a service desk, right? This is, what I mean by that is incidents and service requests. So what's kind of cool is you're already seeing integrations with assets. These are all assets associated to me in my demo environment, right? These are all assigned to this demo account, so I can report an issue, get something fixed on a particular asset, or I can just say, hey, I'm having a problem, an incident, right? Whatever you want to call it, a ticket, right? New ticket. And then I can come in and do the new ticket stuff. I can categorize it. I'm having a problem with my internet and ABC website is blocked, right? Whatever. Hit save, ticket gets created. Now the flip side here is that we also, if you're interested, right, so this is the way that the ticketing works out of the box. Let me preface this. We do have an additional application called service requests, where you can build a workflow around a request, right? The delineation between an incident and request. This will take them to another screen where you can have them request certain items. In this instance, we're looking at a use case that we built for a particular customer. This was their concept around a service request. This is going back to NITRO and the customability of NITRO. This is going to fall in that customization area, right? Everyone's service requests, everyone's forms are going to be a little different, right? You're going to have, maybe you're not a Dell notebook, maybe you're a Mac, right? Okay, that's small, but right, you kind of understand what I mean. But it gives the end user to request something other than submitting a ticket. Now, I mean, we could handle these requests in the ticketing system, but if you do want them to be broken out, we do have this possibility to do so. And then you can also have approval workflows, assignment workflows associated to this request that differentiates from the ticket. So it gives you a little bit of gives you more flexibility, I would say, in terms of how you want to handle incoming requests to the IT department. Now, the other option is we just do tickets. And that was a portal page in your environment. The other side of this is an actual Teams application. So both are options. I have 2 portals loaded. I'm showing one in a SharePoint page and one in a Teams app, just to give you an idea of how they both look. This is the IT specific SAN service request portal, but either or could be done at either page, right? Either option. This is becoming more and more popular. As Teams becomes more and more popular, they can, same principle here, right? Instead of having that split off to submit service requests, they can submit a ticket. They can view their tickets, right? And from here, this is one of those things where it is nice from an end user's perspective, where they can come in, if they're comfortable using portals, they can come in and they can view their tickets and they can add notes, basically communicate, with IT from here. Will they always do that? Probably not, but it is just a nice way to see like, oh, okay, someone told me that I should do something. I got a notification from Ryan saying, hey, to clear your browser cache, you do this, right? And I was like, okay, I tried it, didn't work, or whatever. It's another way for them to communicate, but also see process, status update. One of the things that's becoming more and more common, let me duplicate this tab real quick, is our reliance on Teams messages. I think Krista can attest to this. We do it a lot here internally. I'm sure most folks on this call have this concept as well, where if someone needs something, they're just going to message you on Teams, right? Hey, Ryan, I need help. Super descriptive. Yeah, right. Super descriptive. And what you can do now is you can take this message, this Teams message, and you can actually create a ticket for them. Now, obviously, like this is an extra step, but some people don't break habits, unfortunately, right? They're always going to message you and, Ryan needs help. So it gives you the ability to take this message, create a ticket from this chat. And then what's nice here is that the workflows are still going to fire off, right? We're still going to get notified that the ticket's been created, right? You're going to get a link to the ticket. The end user is going to know, it's going to show up in their portal, right? That ticket's been created. It's going to have those typical workflow processes. It's just tied to that front end Teams message. So we have email submission, we have SharePoint portal, we have Teams portal, right? We have Teams messaging. The last one is diving into the AI space, and it's a Copilot. In this instance, so this is an add-on. Let me preface this again. Just like the service request was an add-on, the Copilot is an add-on. So it's not required for the out-of-the-box help desk. It is an add-on if you want it. We'll talk a little bit about it. I won't go too much in depth, but I'll show you the functionality. Essentially, what we're doing here is I think we're using Azure OpenAI. What did I just do for other cache? Right. If I spell it right. To basically parse a backend document library. So I think the scary thing around AI for most of us, especially in the 365 world, is like, well, what are we searching, or what are we giving our end users the ability to search? Could be anything. Some old SharePoint heads like me know that SharePoint search gives you access to search the whole site collection. It's like, whoa, pause, right? Time. So this gives us the ability to search a targeted document library. In this case, we're actually searching a list that wraps a document library. This lives in the wrong tab, Ryan. And the knowledge base list in the back end. So what this is, it's a way to basically tag a list form associated to a document, a Word, a PDF, Excel, and search against it. Add tags, add descriptions, add content, the document itself. So then when the mark it as an externally facing KB, so that when the end user searches it, it gives them a kind of a spit out of the article. This article could be 1,000 pages long, and it gives them the ability to look up the original source documentation, right? So it's a little bit of both. Now, the other nice thing here too is that you can also create a ticket from this. So I think the end goal here is there's a bunch of different options. You guys can have, like I said, already email, Teams message, portal, Copilot. These are all options, and it's going to be up to you and pick and choose what you want to present to your end user. Just email, great, easy, right? All the way up to Copilot, no problem. It just gives us the ability to control that. If you do have questions, shoot them in. I'm going to start transitioning towards the next step of the workflow, creating, assigning and ticket creation and ticket dissemination, things like that. But if you have end user questions, I'll come back to it, but feel free to chalk them in there. So regardless, once the ticket's created, any of those ways, there's going to be the most commonly asked workflow, and the ticketing tool, in my opinion, is the notifications. Yeah. Here we go. Here's that Ryan needs help message, right? Your ticket's been received. So here's that notification from the Teams message going off, and this is going to be pretty common across the board for all tickets for end users. Same with technicians. In this case, the end user was updated that their ticket will be touched for a month. Okay, a little egregious, but you kind of get the idea. It's just a constant communication from the back-end staff when a ticket is created, when the work log is updated, or when a ticket is resolved, really, right? That's kind of what we're keying off of in this case. So end users do get notified, internal staff does get notified as well. I'm showing emails. Another option for notifications is also chat. Air quotes chat, right? The chat in Teams, and these are adaptive cards. Basically, this is the same stuff that you would get in email, right? I won't touch this for a month. Here you go, right? It can also show up in like your actual chat, right? If you're familiar with this, right? Chat. So again, it's just dotting the I's and crossing the T's, making sure that The end users are getting notified. They can see the notifications. And again, this is an interface to the backend application. So this all writes back to that ticket that was created. Ryan needs help, or work log updated by, or whatever, ERP system's not working, right? It all tying back to that backend interface. But in this instance, it just gives the end user the ability to only use Teams. They don't have to go to SharePoint, right? They can do it from the Teams interface. Same goes for IT staff, right? I mean, you guys are gonna get the same notifications, and you're gonna have that ability to do it through Teams or through email as well. That's up to you guys. I have an admin tab open already. Okay, here we go. So assignment for tickets, I mean, however you want it is the easy way to say it. You can do a staff list, like you can have a, a round robin based on staff members. Hey, Craig only has 4, Ryan has 14. Let's catch Craig and Krista up. You can auto assign tickets based on type of request, category, right? Hey, you have a team. Hey, the service desk team owns this, but hey, if it's this category, go ahead and auto assign it to John. Ryan owns all these requests, right? So it gives you the ability to kind of pick and choose how these get assigned. Once they do get assigned, they're going to end up in the agent tech workspace. So this is me, right? CC sales demo. This ticket is assigned to me. This is in my queue. We do have a high level dashboard as well before I get into working the ticket. It's just a bunch of metrics out of the box. We have a lot of out of the box reports. Open, staff open by, tickets open by staff, unassigned, overdue, open and closed by week, right? And then you can even dive a little further, ticket trends, week, month, 6 months, 180 days, whatever I have in here, yeah. Ticket performance, average time to respond, by type, by technician, average time to close, again, by type, by technician, who gets tickets reopened. It's just those typical metrics. You can kind of see where, from a manager's level, where all the tickets are. Once they're in your space, the nitty gritty, this is your form, right? I can see the first tab. I can see what they said, who said it, right? This is coming from the end user. Real quick, I said I won't go too far into the technical, but I do kind of want to talk about the forms tools. We talked about the portal form already. Outside of the email notifications, the most common question I get is, can I change the form? How configurable is this? It's as configurable as you want it to be. Positive is super configurable, right? The negative is it's super configurable, right? It's finding that middle ground to make sure that it works. But that just kind of goes back to having us help you during the initial implementation. But like I said, down the road, if at any point in time you're like, you know what, I don't want impact and urgency. I don't want that. I just want priority. Take it off the form. I want it gone. Okay, no problem. Hey, you know what? We don't actually need any additional contacts. Go ahead and remove it. You know what? I want another tab. Obviously, I'm making light of this, but I am trying to show how easy it is to configure the forms tools. This is kind of our flagship in this instance, so going in and making changes to the forms are intended to be easy. If again, it's going to come down to how much you want to take on here, but you do have that ability. Working the ticket. First tab is, like I said, the overview staff tab. The big things here are this related asset and the due date. So the asset is associated to the ticket submitter. This is identified my laptop as the issue. It's coming from me. If I take my name off of this, we're not going to see any assets. We're going to see, okay, we're going to see all the assets because I didn't put in a name. Okay, hold on. How about if I do it right? Now, if I put in, let's put in Craig. Now, if I put in Craig, Craig shouldn't have any assets, right? So it's going to key into whoever the ticket submitter is. So now we already see that connection between the asset tool. This is just kind of further cementing that initial page I showed you where you can submit a ticket from an asset. That's where it's pulling from, and then we'll get into how this connects into the asset tracking tool in a minute. But it does show you that connection from the help desk. And the other thing here is due date. This is new for us in the last year or so, but this idea of SLAs, and this is a utility that we built into SharePoint. So this isn't a SharePoint thing. This is a NITRO thing. This is our product app. This isn't a SharePoint feature out of the box. Like, you can't do this. So it's super cool that we were able to add this in. And essentially what it does is it gives you a real easy interface to configure SLAs on your tickets. It could be a default policy, like I have here. Hey, it's a high priority, 15 minutes, respond. 6 hours low, 4 hours normal. Now I want to resolve it in this time. Simple, easy, every ticket. But if you wanted to make it more granular, like, hey, you know, it's a network ticket and it's Krista. Oh my gosh, alphabetical, right? Requester is Krista. Let me just show you the integration with 365. Could be Active Directory too. I say it's 365, but AD, both on-prem and online. Hey, you know what? If it's a network and it's Krista, regardless, I want this thing responded to in 10 minutes. Right. So it gives you a bit of flexibility to make easy configurable SLAs to your requirements, and then that'll show up in the ticket. And then that ties to this SLA dashboard in the manager's help desk. Tickets overdue by a certain time, tickets overdue by certain times, by breach by type, breach by tech, breach by status. So it just gives you that utility ties in directly into these reports as well. You get notifications around these due dates too. How quickly you want is up to you. You can be super aggressive. It used to be every 15 minutes. I think it's every 2. Obviously that's a little egregious, but you know, most is like the day of, the day before. But yeah, super easy. Work log, we talked about this earlier. If you need to communicate with end user, you can through the work log. You can mark it as internal so that they can't see these notes. You know, you can toggle, let me say. You can go back and forth between what notes you can and can't see. KB we talked about already, and then related items. The most common thing I will say I get asked about here is onboarding workflows. It actually just came up with another customer today, ironically. This would be an additional add-on, right? Like, what do I mean by that is, let's talk a little bit about the workflow tool. Promise I won't go too far in depth, but I know it's kind of interesting to see the back end. You know, in this case, let's say you have a IT specific onboarding workflow. Hey, when the ticket gets created, a new hire ticket gets created, I want to add them to Active Directory. I want to assign them this laptop. I want to do these things, permissions, etc. This task list is a child list in the system that we connect to the ticketing tool. And what we can do with the workflow is that on the tickets list, when an item is created and it meets some condition, right? Let's say the condition is the category is a new hire request. Category, alphabetical Ryan is a new hire request. Right? We can go in and we can create, we have all these different actions. We talked about a few of them already. Sending Teams messages, right? Using the AI, etc. But one of the things that we can do is we can create items, we can create tasks in that task system. So it gives you the ability to kind of template those workflows. If you choose, I think I have an example of here, maybe what that would look like. I kind of look at this as a mini project. And if that's the case, we could even look at, you know, templatizing, you know, these tasks basically. Like, what are the tasks going to look like related to the ticket? And you can kind of pick and choose how those tasks get applied, again, based on the type of request that we have, right? We basically build a utility like this and say, what tasks apply to what type of request? So this is another feature, again, that came up today. Top of mind, so that's why I'm showing it, but this is something, a workflow that can be easily added on to this help desk to show you the configurability. Or if you're like, hey Ryan, no, I just want to do tickets, fine too, but that's what we'd use that task system for. And again, one of the most common things requested is onboarding in this case. Okay, 2 additional workflows in ticketing before I move on to assets. Problem management, change management. I want to Problem management is really easy to describe. I'll talk about it very quickly, and then I'll spend a little bit more time on change. You have any questions regarding the ticketing workflow? Just give me a shout, right? Pop those questions in. Go from there. Okay, so problem management. 15, 20, 30, 45 tickets associated to a problem, right? They all come into the same issue. ERP's down. Can't log into email, right? There's like an Outlook problem 2 days ago. You can tie all of those tickets to this problem. But the problem kind of becomes the parent email, right? Hey, Ryan needs help is actually, and calendar and whatever is actually a Outlook issue. So I'm going to tie it to this problem. They're going to be notified that there is a problem. Actually, I think this one was like internet outage. Oh, I'll show you. It also shows up on the portal. Hey, there's some problem. I can't remember how I labeled this one. Internet outage, right? And then they can be notified. So new ticket submitters can see that it's a known problem. And then when their ticket gets associated with the problem, they'll know. And then when you resolve the problem, hey, this is fixed now, this is fixed, like MS said, at ABC, all those tickets will close automatically. You don't have to go through and update those 25 tickets or whatever. They just close, they get the resolution, moves on. Super easy. One of my favorite workflows that we use. Change management. Let's talk a little bit about change. Yeah, or I'm going to show both. Okay, so I have a lightweight change management. I'm going to queue another side up too, just kind of food for thought. So change management in the help desk. Go back to the main screen here. That's assets, Ryan. Can either be associated to a ticket or can be its own standalone entity, right? So I just have a recurring change every week and it's update GitHub, whatever, right? Or every month. Week's a little aggressive. And you can create a change, or it can be associated directly from a ticket. Hey, right, Krista submitted a change in and she wants to update HubSpot, and this is a change that we want to track. So either way, it can be associated to a ticket or its own entity. Now, really in this case, what change management is in this help desk. This is included. It's a way to track approval processes associated to a change. You have the metadata, right? Type of change, if it loads. Come on, internet. Type of change, description of change, all that fun stuff. I don't know why it's not loading, but that's okay. Go to the admin center while it's teeing up. There we go. Right description, owner, requester, and then all the details of the change. Testing, training, work log. But really what we're trying to do is we're trying to track these approval levels. Right? Who should be approving this? And what that pulls from is a change request approvers list on the back end. So you can assign different approvers based on change types, and you can have multiple levels. In this case, level 1 always goes to Eric, level 2 always goes to Ryan, level 3 always goes to their manager from Active Directory, right? So you have a little bit of control over how these changes roll through the system. Straightforward, easy. I call it lightweight change. I need an approval process. I need it in the ticketing system, and it's around some type of change. Getting blown up from all the tickets being closed from the problem management. So there you go. There's all the tickets, notifications going off around closing those tickets. Now, if you want to add on a little bit more in-depth change management process, we have it. It's another app like the service request, like the Copilot, right? And it covers the different change types. This is kind of standard ITIL change management. Standard change, normal change, emergency change. I could spend a half an hour here on my own. Just let you know that these changes have, it's more in depth. It can be a templated change, like a standard change typically pulls from a template. Emergency change obviously is high priority, and a normal change is a normal change. One of those things that we would maybe classify as a lightweight change in the help desk. The approval process and the way that we track these metrics is much more in depth in the system. You can see a lot more metadata is being captured here. Whenever we see metadata, we think workflow, right? So change impact, change urgency, change network, or change category, all of these things can determine the approval routing. and how these people get tasked. Right, so this is just the level 1 assessment of this change. 5 different people need to sign off on this just to get through the assessment phase before we get into implementation, before we get into planning, before we get into scheduling, right? There can be approvals at each level of this change management type. So you have that ability to also track risk impact, blackouts, things like that. And the nice thing about this change is that it can also tie to assets as well. So if your assets are a common, like you're tracking software or servers or whatever, these changes can also tie to the assets in both instances. But in this case, we see that if people go with this route, it's a little bit more associated to that, change related to assets feature. Again, if you're interested, one-on-one call, we'll go into this in a bit more detail, same with service requests, but just kind of giving you a heads up that this is a possibility as well. Okay, get this out of here. Let's go to asset tracking. I know I'm at the half-hour mark right now. I wanted to keep it around 30 minutes. I'm gonna go a little longer so we can cover assets, so bear with me, but we'll breeze through this pretty quick. And we'll kind of wrap it all up and let you guys ask any questions if you have them. So, I mean, we talked already about the ticket integration with assets. Really, your assets are being tracked in a SharePoint list. At the end of the day, this is a SharePoint list. It's a lot of radio ABCs. Sorry. Essentially what we're doing is we're tracking metadata against an asset. Now there's additional things that we add into it, but really at the end of the day, it's who has it, how long have they had it for, right? No one has it because it got checked in, right? So there's no one assigned to. And then what is it? Make, model, serial number, and then a bunch of, again, metadata workflow, right? What is the value? What's the purchase date? What's the depreciation value date? What depreciation method is it? Et cetera, right? All of this metadata, images, right? Et cetera, associated to the asset. Now, that's the base level. The more in-depth aspect to it is you start to add in different features, like an integration with Intune. Oh, I'm not logged in. Can you text me? Yeah, I'm text. There we go. Well, at least we're seeing that single sign-on works. 912. Okay, so now we can pull information in from Intune into the ticketing system. The device name, any metadata captured in Intune can be pulled into the asset. So now you can sync it, right, to that asset. You can sync all assets. It just gives you the ability to track information in Intune and in the asset list. Helpful from a permission perspective. That's one. I get that one asked a lot. Second one is like recurring maintenance, preventative and recurring maintenance. Absolutely. Kind of the cool thing here is that the maintenance can be against a single asset or a group. Like you buy, I don't know, 10 laptops, and they all get bought on the same day. That's now maintenance group 1, and I want to create a recurring maintenance schedule against this asset group. Weekly, quarterly, or weekly, monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, annually, whatever, right? It gives you that ability to create that maintenance schedule, cost, things like that. And then store those preventative maintenance tasks against the asset. These will automatically create on that schedule once we set it up. I have it setting up to create tasks, but if you want them to set up to create tickets, that's a possibility too, right? You have that both. It's just personal preference. Maintenance check-in, check-out. Yeah, we talked about basically, hey, Ryan's gonna have this desktop. This is Ryan's desktop. I'm gonna check out to Ryan's desktop. I'm not gonna put in a check-in date, and now we know it's in my hands. And now we know it's for me, and this comes in. This is another question I get a lot. Hey, can I pull a report to see all assets assigned to a particular person? 100%. Show me all assets equal to Ryan. There you go. You can print it, PDF it, send notifications to recover those assets. Absolutely. Installed software. Again, we can pull this information from Intune if you have any, software being stored up here. But we can also associate softwares to hardware and to users as well. This is let me duplicate this tab. This is just pulling from a software list in the asset tracking tool. What software? Where is it? Who has it? More or less, right? And if you do want to assign it, you can store things like license keys and kind of any metadata against the asset, right? And then track those installations as well. It's just an audit log. It's a nice, easy way to track these. And there is like an additional workflow here that if you do want to install an asset against a software asset against a hardware asset, it does go through a checking process. We call this a custom action in our tool set. Basically, it's a manually invoked workflow to say, hey, do you have the number of licenses? If so, go ahead and update them to show one less available. And do you have the permissions to do this? Right? And now it shows up against that desktop item. Related tickets, we talked about this already, but related change requests. And then the last thing here is this service. The easiest way to say this is like SMDB Lite, or not SMDB. I've been doing SharePoint too long. CMDB Lite. Way to track assets together. So let's say you want to make a change on a server, but server A is tied to server B, is tied to server C. You can make a change on server A. What is the trickle down effect to that change? We track that in that change management process, right? But we also need to pull that information from somewhere. Okay, these 3 servers are linked. So when we make a change request, we need to understand that these 3 servers are linked to that change request. So it's a way to associate assets to assets, assets to change, assets to tickets, assets to problems, right? The asset kind of becomes the de facto source of truth, and you can track its life with the company and all of those areas in which they get touched, right? The user, the tickets, the service requests, the changes, the problems. It kind of all writes back to that service, to that asset. Yeah, I didn't really talk about reports. You can do either. I showed them high level on the help desk. You also have the ability to create custom reports, search, right? Hey, show me all the assets associated to Ryan, and pull a report and print it. Gives you that ability to do so. Hey, give me a PDF printout of this. Go and get all these assets from Ryan. So you can do either or, graphical, physical data. Yeah, it's another one of those SharePoint tools in NITRO Studio. Yeah, and then I will say assets is in addition to the help desk, right? So you're thinking about the modeling and the pricing of the tool set, and some may have questions for this either now or after the fact. The help desk is the base model, right? This is the starting point. Help desk, problem management, lightweight change, and then you can add on any of these tools. Assets, Copilot, change management, service request, right? Those are all optional add-ons, and they can be added on at any time. It's not required to start that way. Most start here or here and assets, and then add on as they go. Yeah, I went a little over. I apologize. I said 11:30. We're at 11:40. So I'll let you guys go here shortly. But are there any questions or I don't see anything that's come in, but anything that you guys can think of? Now is a good time. While I give you a minute to do that, I'll just do some housekeeping items, show you some additional features while I give you a few minutes to think of questions. One of the features that I like that we've added in internally, I'll talk about as a part of the workflow tool, is the ability to involve teams in more detail. I should just click on workflows. So you can actually schedule teams messages from tickets related to an asset, right? So actually we'll write to your calendar. Let's go tickets. So what you can do is you can create like, hey, I don't, you know, so this is maybe a workaround for like screen sharing or remote control because it's a SharePoint site, but you can actually, where am I? Create a meeting. So this is like, you know, a normal Teams meeting, who the organizer is, who the required attendees are. Typically it's like assigned staff, requester, right? You can kind of pick and choose your time length. You have different templates, right? Mail templates for your meetings, and it shows up on your calendar. We can store that meeting against the ticket if you want. This is another cool option. This is going to be a feature of the application. It's not currently, but something that can be easily added, but it will be an upgrade coming shortly. Yeah, another cool feature is the ability to add in web service, API calls. I will say I get this a lot. Look, APIs are possible. We have this feature built in to get and pull information from third-party tool sets. Probably more on the asset side than the ticketing side, or even more so on the purchasing application that we offer than ticketing, but it is a possibility. Yeah, these are the other applications that we do offer. If I pull up my main screen here, purchasing is the big one. We talked about most of the big ones here, but purchasing is the other one that we offer that I didn't talk about today. I don't see any questions coming in, so I'm gonna let you guys go. Krista's gonna email you after the fact with the recording. And if you want to schedule a demo, just give her a shout and we'll get something on the books. Krista, anything else you can think of before we let them go?
I think that'll do it for today. Yeah, thank you everyone for joining us today, and thank you Ryan for going through all this and sharing us all these interesting new features here.
No problem. Yeah, it's a lot. I understand it's a lot drinking from the fire hose a little bit. So if I would suggest, if you're interested, a little bit more time with me or with one of my colleagues. But thanks everyone. Thanks Krista. Talk to you guys soon.
Thanks Ryan.